Mark Christie.
Here.
Thank you. Alex Pelham. I think I'll come back because I think Lindy is in.
Sorry, Lindy Burt for Alex Pelham.
Thank you, Lindy. Fred Zabel.
Here.
Mayor Bain.
Here.
Mayor Kumar. Mayor Ward.
Mayor Blackwell for Mayor Ward.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Harold Patel. Robert Horwath.
Here.
Chief Stillman.
Here.
Chief Sweeney.
Coming up in a second.
I can come back. Lisa Devere. Sheriff Violin.
Yeah, the sheriff is present. He just stepped out of the room for one moment. He'll be right back.
Okay. Chief Deidre Jones.
Sergeant John Medlong for Chief Jones.
Thank you. Stephen Green.
I'm here.
Chief Elliott. Beth Gatlin.
I'm here. I don't know if anybody else is having problems hearing you, Nicole, but you're really soft.
Yes.
Okay. Michael Dever. Okay, we have a quorum.
Great, we have a quorum. Mayor Blackwell, thank you for joining us for the meeting and filling in for Mayor Ward. Much more pleasant. I appreciate it. Okay, continuing on. Don't tell him I said that. We have two approval of minutes. We have minutes dated April 8th, 2021. Everybody's had a chance to review those. It'd be seeking a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Zabel, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Steve Green seconds.
Motion approved. First and seconded. Anyone that's a nay, signify by nay. Okay, motion approved. No, second set of minutes is April 22nd, 2021. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll motion. Mark Christie.
I need a second.
Second, Bob Horwath.
Great. It's been first and seconded. Any nays, signify by nay, please. Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Any public comment, Nicole?
No public comment.
Okay, no public comment at this time. We're looking forward, moving quickly right along here to committee reports. Communications.
Communications Committee met on May 12th. We had some discussion regarding grants update, and Mark Christie gave us some information on an upcoming exercise. Our next meeting is July 14th.
Any questions for the Communications Committee? Hearing none. Next committee is Emergency Management.
Good afternoon, everybody. We were moving quickly, but we want to take a few minutes here just to give kind of a short update. So Kevin Freeze, if you could start a very brief slide deck, I promise. We just want to, at this point, because as you've heard probably of us mention numerous times recently, that we're really trying to make a transition scale down COVID-19 support and resume some projects, initiatives that we've paused with all the disruptions over the last year. Wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an update from the office, and then also, I will mention briefly too that about the most recent meeting of the Emergency Management Committee. But so real quick, Kevin and I are just going to take a couple minutes to give some administrative updates, a little synopsis, very mini synopsis of the COVID-19 response efforts that the office has been involved with over these past 14, 15 months, and sort of some steps moving toward recovery, and then talk a little bit about some planning initiatives and some operations initiatives that are sort of coming down the pipeline for the rest of this year and into the hopefully more normal future. So go ahead, Kevin. Next slide. First, administrative updates from me. EMAP, I'm sure you've heard me mention this the previous few meetings that we've had. Our office was up for its 5-year reaccreditation through the Emergency Management Accreditation Program. And we underwent our virtual on-site assessment last year in October and November. Those are normally conducted in person, but it was all virtual for obvious reasons with the pandemic. And then over the course of the subsequent months, worked with EMAP and the assessment team to rectify some findings and improve our program. And so right now we finally just received our preliminary report indicating full compliance with the EMAP standards. Now the process sort of transitions into a recommendation for hopefully reaccreditation through the formal commission process, which takes place in July. And so we are anticipating hopefully our full reaccreditation out of that, but we'll wait until it's official. But thank you all again. I know many of you participated as far as providing documentation to us or giving interviews, as part of the on-site assessment that was virtual. So I really do appreciate all the support that we received throughout that process. New hire. We've had a vacancy that we actually tried to fill last year, right at the onset of COVID-19, and everything sort of fell apart and we had to pause everything. So we're happy now that we are actually able to fill that vacancy, which the individual comes from another county emergency management agency in the state of Ohio, and he'll be starting with us in early July. For those of you that remember Mac Flynn from our office is a former senior emergency management specialist. This individual will pick up many of those initiatives that Mac was involved with, things like Ready Certify, virtual tabletops, our employee preparedness program. So, we've obviously a lot of those have just been on hold because of COVID-19, but now we'll actually have a dedicated person to help us resume a lot of those efforts. And also we are onboarding some 3 different interns from University of Akron. That's a typical relationship that we have. Interns from Akron that are studying emergency management have an internship requirement. I'm sorry, students at Akron that are studying emergency management have an internship requirement. And so we're usually happy to accommodate them, and it enables us to get a little bit of additional support with some of our projects and programs. Kevin will touch on the COVID piece of this, and then the resumption of some of these programs and projects that we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But then I just will mention right at this time in the presentation that the Emergency Management Committee did meet earlier this week, actually on Monday, and the business that we talked about mostly was related to reopening and recovery and a lot of again, a lot of the programs and plans and things that we're going to have to update and get back to are going to require external reviews and participation. So we're going to lean heavily on that Emergency Management Committee for that type of work. So we talked through some of those items as well. That's it for my administrative updates. And if there's no questions for me, we can go ahead and transition over to Kevin to talk about COVID-19 response.
All right, so a quick overview of COVID-19 in the last year and a half, essentially. So we started coordination and planning meetings at the end of January 2020, if you can believe that. Those meetings included representatives from CCBH, CDPH, hospitals, emergency management, and the Fire Chiefs Association. And that group really identified trigger points for activation of various plans and the Emergency Operations Center. So because of that planning, the county EOC was activated partially on March 9th with the announcement of the first positive cases in the county. That day, a joint information center was also established and co-located in the County Emergency Operations Center. To date, we have activated or used 27 out of the 70 County Emergency Operations Plan annexes. This is the largest number of annexes that we've activated simultaneously for a response. This includes the base emergency operations plan, 10 emergency support function annexes, 4 functional annexes, as well as multiple SOGs and SOPs. Our office has also coordinated the distribution of 19.5 million pieces of PPE to healthcare, public safety, schools, critical infrastructure partners, and other agencies. Multiple partners of ours have staffed the Emergency Operations Center in person or virtually, and multiple other partners continued to participate in weekly coordination calls to continue delivery of critical services to their constituents. So as we're winding down our supportive response efforts, we are starting the transition to recovery, and especially short-term recovery. As part of that, you'll be hearing from us to coordinate after-action review meetings with the various partner agencies and others to determine what went well and what can be improved. We are actually going to be doing a two-pronged after-action review process, an internal county agency review, and then also a county-wide partner review. I think we'll definitely learn a lot from this last year as to how we can improve our response planning and efforts. One of the items quickly identified was that agencies that had continuity plans focused primarily on facility or utility disruption, our usual suspects, right? So our office is actually working to update existing continuity plans for all county departments and establish continuity plans for any departments that don't have them. All those plans will include all hazards, but also now a pandemic component and workforce reduction component. As part of the recovery process, funding and reimbursement is important to making our communities whole. So many agencies and communities expended a vast amount of resources in response to COVID-19 above and beyond their normal budgets. So as part of, especially as part of the vaccination effort, fire and EMS departments, CERT teams, and other volunteer agencies rose to the challenge to assist us and the health departments with vaccination efforts, even outside their own municipality. As the communities incurred costs for those fire and EMS personnel to assist, the county council has allotted an amount of money for reimbursing communities for certain expenses that were incurred as part of that mass vaccination effort. Our office shared with our communities a vaccine MOU that any community seeking reimbursement for covered expenses has to complete to be eligible to submit for reimbursement. As has been mentioned before, the county built a PPE warehouse. I just realized my Zoom connection died, but I'm on the phone, so I'm good. I can keep talking. As we move toward recovery, we plan to maintain a cache to be able to assist in future outbreaks and pandemics. And as part of that, we are going to be looking at rotating PPE with normal users of PPE so that we don't have things expiring. As we begin to demobilize, PPE distribution is going to shift from 2 days per week to 1 day per week, and eventually to an as-needed basis. Sit reps have moved from Fridays to Wednesdays to coincide with the weekly briefing call.
Can you tell him he's muted?
Hey, Kevin, you're muted. You're muted, Kevin.
My Zoom died on me and then restarted on its own and muted me. So where did I leave you off? Okay. Yeah, so PPE distribution is going to go from 2 days per week to 1 and eventually to as needed. Our weekly sit reps and briefing calls will also be going from weekly to potentially every other week and then monthly in the coming months. All right. There we go. So some planning updates. Due to our response posture for COVID-19, we obviously did not get to a lot of the plan updates that we had scheduled for last year. Thus, I wanted to bring to this group's attention that we are going to move all of our scheduled plan updates back by 1 year. So anything that was due last year will be done this year, and so forth. This is also year 3 of our THIRA SPR update process, and we, as part of that, will have to assess all 32 court capabilities this year. Last year, we only had to do 24 of the court capabilities per the requirements. Also, we will be looking at developing a cyber response plan in light of all of the cyber attacks that have been occurring. Luckily, our Chief Information Security Officer for the county sits on a number of cybersecurity committees and national committees, and we'll be working with him to develop that plan over the next year. We are also entering the 5th year of our 5-year mitigation plan update. So that is going to be kicking off. We actually held an internal kickoff meeting yesterday, or 2 days ago, with the selected vendor, which is Michael Baker. They completed the last mitigation plan and will be working on this year's as well. An important item to note is that participation in the planning process and adoption of this plan is the easiest way to become eligible for federal mitigation project funding through the new and improved Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program, better known as BRIC. Number of training classes are coming up, as you can see on the screen. Also, for the communities, as you're restarting your home days or other events, we are able to provide outreach materials or come out and staff a tent or booth. And with that, I will turn it back to Mark for operations.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I promise we're almost done. So real quick, just some highlights from the operations side of the house. Rescue Task Force Training Program. I'm sure most of you by now have heard Brian Kloss from our office talk about what has gone into Rescue Task Force in our county. For those that might be unfamiliar with what Rescue Task Force is, on a very high level, it's basically the concept of delivering medical treatment and triaging casualties resultant from an active shooter incident or some sort of calamity in a warm zone, basically, in an area that is not completely secured. So it's a process by which police and EMS or fire have to work together in teams to do that safely and effectively. Brian has leaned on subject matter experts from throughout the county. There's a wealth of subject matter experts in our county through the different police and fire departments and medical world. So he's really been focused on trying to leverage all those perspectives, standardize approaches, and develop a train the trainer program with these partnerships that'll hopefully train individuals from all the different municipal police and fire departments, and then they can bring back that training and train their respective staffs. So this year, there are 4 sessions scheduled. The first one is on June 16th. And I should have mentioned too that to make this possible, the county's allocated funding to cover the cost of the trainers will be a part of this program, which is obviously very important. Knowledge Center, just this very briefly, operations, things that have been paused. Knowledge Center, we have the resource database that we need to coordinate updates to all the resource information and knowledge center. We used to do that annually. Last year, obviously, we weren't able to do that. That'll be happening pretty soon. And then things like ESF and emergency coordinator workshops. We used to hold those with regularity to make sure everybody is familiar and acquainted with the EOC and the roles and expectations of, on both sides of emergencies. We're going to be doing, resuming those things. And we're starting to see exercises start to come back online. The biggest one that we're involved with right now is working with USAR and Hazmat for a large exercise that'll take place in the summer in August in 2 different locations, Valley View and Tri-C West, I believe. And I think that's really it from our. There's no more slides, is there, Kevin?
No, that's it.
All right, thanks. Does anybody, thank you for listening. I know that was a little bit longer than we probably anticipated, but we thought that was some valuable information that was worth sharing. So does anybody have any questions for either Kevin or myself on any of that?
Hi, it's Mayor Bates. Can I go?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Nice presentation, guys. I appreciated learning about the cyber response plans that you're going to get back to and more into. And I would like to suggest that as you do proceed with that you keep in mind the many communities within the county. Most of us rely on third-party vendors to provide our IT support. Some even have not even professional IT people, but people familiar enough with our systems to keep our IT going within a city or a community. And I think it would be beneficial as you look at countywide plans for cyber response, that perhaps best practices or some training and opportunity could be provided to the communities within the county to just at least inform communities as to this is what you ought to be doing. And if you're not, then you're at risk. It's something that a lot of communities kind of dance around with and don't have either the resources or the expertise or necessarily even a vendor who has the sophistication that you guys will present to it as to best practices and what ought to be going on. So, and how a community ought to respond perhaps in the event of a cyber attack. So anything you can build into your planning and offer to the communities as you go downstream would be appreciated.
Absolutely. That is one of the goals, is to be able to provide some guidance and best practices to the communities and other stakeholders within the county. So we'll definitely keep that in mind.
Great to hear. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else for us, then thank you very much for listening.
Okay, no other questions for emergency management? Great. EMS subcommittee. Bruce, you on? Okay, hearing none. Fire committee back on June 8th, specifically to review the PowerPoint presentation that the county put together, Brian Klaas put together. It was a good meeting. It was attended by representatives from across the fire chiefs from across the county. The PowerPoint was a very good PowerPoint. I think Brian's done an excellent job putting it all together. It will be a great benefit to all the police and fire agencies once we get this training underway. As everyone's aware in the group, that we've been able to buy body armor, medical supplies, and most recently litters for rescue task force deployment if it's ever needed. So, this committee has done some very good work with trying to handle that project, which is appreciated. Speaking of litters, the litters that did one out, I'm not sure if Larry's on, but also the SCED for the conversion of the ATV the ATV unit that's from Public Works, we're going to convert into trailer. So once all the equipment comes in, myself, Bruce Elliott from EMS committee, and Brian and I will go out and get that trailer set up with hope that will, hopefully, if everything comes in time, everything else, that we can have it ready to roll by early August. But you know how that goes. We'll see how that plays out. There's no scheduled fire committee as of yet, but I imagine we'll have a meeting before the next CCESAB committee meeting in August. Any questions for fire? Okay, hearing none. Health medical.
Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday, sunny Thursday. Health and medical did not meet. And so we really have no report. We did get some shipments of our USC FY15 into the warehouse. So we got the ID con kits and the filters. We are still waiting on the PPE shipment. So hopefully that'll be wrapped up soon. Otherwise, get your vaccination. Keep your masks on. There's lots of J&J vaccine out there. That's one shot. It's good to go. It'll help prevent you from getting one of the variant strains and hopefully keep you from getting sick later on this year. So get your shots, both of them. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Does anyone around vaccination program at all, or do you want to take that real quick?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up there.
Do you want to touch base on the homebound vaccination program at all, or do you want myself, and now Chief Sweeney I know is online. Do you want us to speak to that real quick, just to give a quick update?
Oh yeah, Chief Sweeney, the guru of homebound vaccination.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Chief Sweeney,
I don't know about that, but
keep it right to the point, Chief.
yeah. So it's up and running. We actually have, we're working. We've got 30 fire departments that are working with the Board of Health that signed on to partner with them. We've got today the Heights area is helping them out with, I think, 5 homebound patients that are in East Cleveland. There might be a few more: East Cleveland, Shaker Heights, and University Heights. And they are doing, their Board of Health nursing staff is actually doing homebound patients, I think, in the Hillcrest area and in the West Shore area. Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging is really the group that is taking the registrations. And weekly we get together to kind of determine, where they're at and whether they need help from the fire department. So it's moving along well. So I think that's about it right now. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Thank you, Pat, for the brief updates. And then Nicole, if you can mark them down as present for the meeting, it'd be appreciated. Perfect. All right. If any other questions for health and medical? Okay, hearing none, we will go on to law enforcement. I think I saw Chief Stoneman on.
Mike, no report from law enforcement today, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Any questions for law enforcement? Hearing none, Public Works.
Hey, Chief, I can give a quick update concerning Public Works. I think since this past time we met, Chief Elliott, who's not on the call right now, but he referred me to a potential person to help resurrect the Public Works Subcommittee. And that's his name's Chuck Brunello out of Mayfield Heights Service Department. He's also the mayor of Highland Heights. So I've had several conversations with him over the past few weeks and shared some information and kind of my thoughts on what we need to do to try to reinvigorate that group. And so he is able and willing to help do that. And so hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to kind of get some momentum and try to bring service directors back to the table and develop an action plan of what we want to try to accomplish within that committee over the next few years. But just wanted to give you that update. So hopefully they'll, Public Works will have a presence on this committee again. Other than John Corn, who's from Public Works.
That's great. I'm glad it's good that the group will be hopefully get going, because they're a very important group to get together and integral to a larger disaster. So it's very good to hear. Any questions for Public Works?
Mark, who did you say was spearheading that?
His name's Chuck Brunello. He's from the Mayfield Heights Service Department. He's also the mayor of Highland Heights, and so it's going to be sort of a just he's it's going to be kind of a collaboration between our office and him to try to, like I said, reconvene hopefully some of the original membership if they're still around, and then bring on some new people to make sure we have good representation from throughout the county. But we'll have to start again working on the bylaws, working on the membership from scratch, because it really has been a few years that they've been dormant.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving along. Any other questions for Public Works? Hearing none. Grants report.
Hi, this is Mary Beth. Hopefully everybody can hear me.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Is that visible to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started with UASC 17. An important part of UASC 17 is that we were able to get an extension. This grant is now going to expire on December 31st, which is going to help us with some delays that we're encountering with deliveries. As far as the prior projects go, the radios for Shaker Heights, University Heights, Beechwood, and Lyndhurst are currently being programmed. The Cleveland downlink contract is pending our County Board of Control approval. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to complete the Sheriff's Dive Trailer. The delivery time on that would put it outside any type of extension we could get for this grant. So we are exploring the reallocation options. As far as the new projects go, you'll recall at the April 22nd meeting, there were a number of new projects. The Fusion Center tablets and docking stations, there's a budget modification that is with Ohio EMA that we're waiting for approval so that we can get started with that. The USAR airbags and the South Euclid Police Department MDTs, we are working with those project owners on their specifications. Tech Rescue's getting headlamps, and those specs are with Ohio EMA for review. CCESAB has ballistic vests on this list, and we're getting ready to release that solicitation. The Highland Heights police radios, the Chagrin Valley cow trailer, the RTF casualty litters, and the RTA Seaburn masks are all out currently to get quotes. And so as soon as we can get 3 quotes on each of those purchases, we'll be able to move them forward. And Chief Carroll, you asked about the retrofit for the existing Gator for the victim transport capability. That order has actually been placed.
Awesome.
So moving on to State Homeland 17, that actually closed on May 31st. And before it closed, we completed the 2 open projects, which were the portable X-ray processors and the chemical analyzers for the Cleveland bomb team. At this point, we're projecting an unspent balance of less than $100, and we're currently working with Ohio EMA to close out that grant. For State Homeland 18, we were also able to get an extension on this grant, and this extension is going to go through October 31st. The radios for Walton Hills, Oakwood, and East Cleveland are also currently being programmed. The chemical detection system for hazmat has been ordered. As far as the supplies go for the mass casualty trailer, we have received shipment on all but one of these supplies, and we're just waiting for that to come in. There was one new project that was approved on April 22nd, and that was the Tech Rescue harnesses and gloves, and we're working with Tech Rescue on the specifications. State Homeland 19, Tech Rescue also has helmets that are coming against this grant, and again, we're working with them on finalizing their specs. This grant is the grant that's paying for the Joint Hazmat USAR 24-hour full-scale exercise that's scheduled for August 27th. And as you heard from Mark, that's moving forward. We do have the EHP with FEMA for their approval. There are 2 USAR training courses that are on this. So one is the Advanced Structural Collapse Shoring. The other is the Heavy Rigging Equipment Specialist trainings. We are out soliciting quotes right now with those vendors. We are still waiting for the EHPs from the USAR teams also on those. There's a course that will happen this fall. It's an Advanced Structural Specialist course for USAR, and we're waiting for the list of students who will be traveling to this training from USAR. And then there's another training for water rescue, their technical search training, which we're out soliciting quotes for right now. State Homeland 20. These on the screen are the Cuyahoga County projects, the Regional Cybersecurity Assessment, and the EOD equipment for Cleveland Bomb. We are working with the project owners for their specs. There are also hazmat supplies on this grant. There are antidote kits that are being purchased, and the award is actually with Ohio EMA for their approval. And as far as the remaining supplies, we'll purchase those in 2022 as the current supplies expire. I'm moving on to State Homeland LE 17, like State Homeland regular, that also closed on May 31st. There's no change in this grant. We've actually completed this grant a while ago, so there's no change from the April meeting. State Homeland 18, law enforcement, we were also able to get an extension on that grant, and it was extended to October 31st. The open projects on this are we're waiting for a final invoice for the MEMX data conversion. They're converting data from the old software for the Fusion Center to Caseware, which is the new software for Fusion. And then also there was a new project that was approved. It was the 5 additional vehicle barriers for Cleveland Metro Parks. And that award is with Ohio EMA, and we're just waiting for their approval so we can move forward. Everything else on LE 18 for Cuyahoga County has been completed. Law Enforcement 19, there has been no change from April. All of those projects are completed. Which brings us to Law Enforcement 20. We have the Regional Cybersecurity Assessment Project, and we're awaiting the specs from the project owner. The remaining projects on this grant are all for the Fusion Center. We've completed their Caseware software renewal. We are right now working with the vendor in developing the contract for their commercial LPR software, and we're working with Fusion on the specs for their social media open source threat platform specs. And then that brings us to State Homeland and State Homeland LE 21. So we're asking you just to stand by. We reached out to Ohio EMA yesterday, and they advised us that they expect to send out the grant guidance in the next 2 weeks. Once we get those, we'll be able to build a timeline, and we will get the information out to everybody. Are there any questions on the grant report?
I do have one. That's the dive trailer. How much was that, the funding allocated for that? What does the reallocation, what are you looking at for that?
The amount, I believe, was about $26,000. And what we have to confirm is because we got that extension from on UASC, one of the conditions is that we were not going to be able to do any new projects. What we need to find out is, does that freeze go through the projects? Does the freeze apply to the original contract program end time or December 31st? So are we bound to what we already have? And so are we going to just have to increase one of those existing projects, or can we actually add a new project as long as we do so before August 31st?
And
so
that
that's
was,
the question.
I'm sorry, what project, what year was this money, I'm sorry?
This is UASC 17.
So it's UASC funds.
Yes. So it would be a Cuyahoga County project. We don't share UASC with it. That's not one of the regional grants.
Correct. Okay, and then when will we have an answer on this? In case will it be by the August meeting? Or are we going to have a special?
Oh, we will definitely have an August meeting. If you promise not to hold me to it, I'm expecting at the August meeting we'll be looking at the 21 awards projects, and hopefully if we can identify any other reallocation monies, we can discuss them at the same time.
Okay, so
that's what the goal is.
All right, assuming we reach that goal, we'll have a word on that. So if the committees have to meet or whatever, we can do that prior to the August meeting, I'm assuming.
Correct. I would anticipate that the committees will need to meet in July, because if we do get that information from Ohio EMA in 2 weeks, then that's when we're going to put out for projects, and we're going to need to go through the funding allocation process for 21.
Okay, and then when you do that, if you can put the list of, if it's stuck to an existing project that was already approved in 17, if you can provide that list to the committee, and that way we can look at that. I believe RTF equipment was part of that as an example, but there's other ones I am sure that could use that funding.
Yeah, we will do so.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Moving along, no other questions for grants. Any old business?
This is Mayor Blackwell. I have a question, and I'm sorry that I'm a little late, a little behind. Law enforcement, there was no report, but I understand in the state budget, there is quite a bit of money for body cameras and the data storage costs associated with that storage. Is there any comment from the law enforcement area, although there was no report? Any comment on that, or any further information you can share with me?
I had trouble hearing you. Could you repeat that, please?
Sure. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Same. It's a little muffled.
It is muffled.
Let me type it. I'll type it. Maybe there's something wrong with my speech. I'll type it.
All right, chat, great. I think Chief, she was asking about, she can clarify the body cameras and data storage of the body cameras and the possibility of using LE funds for that. But I guess we'll wait for her to type it. I think it revolved around that.
I'll just wait and see what she has to type here, Mike.
Okay, sounds good. There you go.
Boss, you have a text message.
Do you see that, Chief, in the chat?
Yeah, I do. If there's money out there, I certainly am not aware of any for that. I've heard scuttlebutt about the state supplying money for body cameras, but I have not seen any documentation forthcoming supporting those comments.
Is that okay, Mayor Black? Okay. Okay, maybe more information will be forthcoming to the LE to support those, part of that project.
I did hear the same thing that the mayor is referring to, but I haven't seen anything, Mike, that gives us any direction in that program.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Any other old business? Any new business? Okay, hearing none, I just want to do a quick shout out for the county, EMA, and Board of Health for all the stuff they've been doing for the COVID over the last 18 months. Your work and effort has really had a positive impact on all our communities. I do appreciate it, and I think everybody in this committee appreciates it, including Cleveland. I want to leave Cleveland out of that. Everything you guys have done in Cleveland to it all. It's all one big group, and it's worked well. So thank you all. And hearing no other new business, I'm just going to need a motion to adjournment.
So moved.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Perfect. All right. Any nays? Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll see you guys in August and maybe in July if we have.